Good day, listeners. Welcome to Beyond the Checkbox, where we learn how to integrate more mental wellness into our organizations, and we learn through frontline leaders. Those are the best people to talk to, and that's who we had on the podcast today, Samantha Coker, who is the CHRO of a company called Apache Industrial Holdings, and they work in construction. It's a big company. It's maybe a company you haven't heard of. But these are the companies that I love to talk to the HR executives with, because these are literally the people that run the economy and build the roads and build the everything that we rely on. And they don't get much credit because they're not flashy brands. And they have unique challenges like staffing those organizations. So that's what Samantha drills down into today, is how to create a culture of psychological safety and how that improves retention, how that improves attraction of employees. And in construction, as you likely know, that's not the easiest place to attract employees these days. Some construction companies struggle to get individuals into those really important frontline industries. Great paying jobs, benefits, people who work hard and support their families. And, those are some of the industries where they're struggling at times to attract people. So we talked to Samantha about that. It was a great conversation. I was, really fortunate to sit down with Samantha a couple of times to discuss the context of this. And if it doesn't come through the podcast, Samantha is very funny and just an easy person to chat with. I really enjoyed my time with her. I hope you enjoy the show. You have been in, let's say, male-dominated industries for most of your career, if I could say that. Worley may have been a little more balanced. I know Apache is a very frontline, kind of male-heavy workforce. How have you navigated that? And there's been challenges, I'm sure. How have you navigated that?
So I never really thought of, I'm entering this workforce as a woman and I'm surrounded by men. It just that didn't enter my psyche. I knew I was going to have to work hard no matter what, and the gender piece didn't really come into my thoughts until it was kind of, things like International Women's Day became a thing and we started talking more about diversity and inclusion. And then you start realizing, like, oh, okay, there are some nuances and some things that we can do better to make the workplace just a better place and more inclusive for all of us to be more successful and to feel more comfortable and have all the opportunities for growth and development. So I would say at the beginning, it just wasn't a factor, but the further along I get in my career, I realize how important it is to create that inclusive environment, not just for women, but really for everyone. We all have our own diversity and inclusion pieces that we bring to the table. So for me, it's always been about the individual. If it's a woman and a working mom, okay, can we peel away a piece of stress from her life to where she is able to engage and fully contribute to our business? And if the answer is yes, then let's work to make that happen. Same thing for just other ethnicities or whatever we need to do to make a more inclusive environment. Really has been the approach from my perspective. It wasn't necessarily a gender focused component, but I'm always happy to celebrate women. So
Has that been a part of your role at Apache? Has it been a part of what you're doing, is trying to create more inclusivity in that workplace?
yeah, definitely. this company is actually very diverse. So 30% of our workforce is female, which is really good, especially in this industry. That's high. So we have a good foundation to build upon. And again, it's how do we take that to the next level and make sure not only that we have a high percentage of women, but that we're offering, the right development opportunities and the right positions within the company for people to grow and feel like they're contributing to the overall mission. So that's been my role, is figuring out where are we starting from, and then how do we harness that power and get even better and get our folks even more engaged and feeling better about what they do.
Has the great resignation, have you seen that in the trades and the crafts?
So the interesting thing in the trades and the crafts is not so much the great resignation. Like I said, we had a shortage of workers pre-COVID, and I'm still confused on where the workers have all gone. We do have a very high demand, but just in general, we seem to have a shortage of workers across all the industries, which is a challenge. But the great resignation has not necessarily impacted the trade, so to speak. We were struggling to meet the demands before COVID, and now, work is picking up. So that's going to continue for the next 3 years, where we'll see a real crunch on meeting the demands of the trades. Certainly here in the US, and I think Canada is going to see the same thing. On the professional side, the great resignation has definitely impacted our business and previous roles that I've had before. People are enlightened. They want to have a different life balance, and or they want to pursue a dream or some entrepreneurship opportunity that they have. And so we're looking to find the right balance of what we can offer and still deliver the business that we need to.
So where where are people going? I don't get
I don't
this.
know. The 2 Starbucks near my house will randomly be closed because they don't have workers, and I don't know. I don't know where they went.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't say and I don't think any HR professional has a great grasp of the great resignation. And we kind of talked about it as I like the piece about enlightenment, like people are going elsewhere to pursue their own path. But are they like are we seeing a 10x are we seeing 10x the number of entrepreneurs out there who are starting their own businesses? I'd like to see that data. Or are people just not working? They have savings. I don't know what the mix is.
I don't know either, and it is definitely a conundrum. So if you get any insight on it, please share any articles, because we're trying to figure it out. But yeah, going back to Apache, for the trades, we're fighting the good fight of attracting people to this business and connecting to the purpose of that you don't necessarily need to go to college to earn a degree to make a good living. If that's not your thing, we have a path for you, and here's how you do it. And kind of painting that picture is really important. And then on the professional side, since I've been here, I've not actually really seen a whole lot of resignations, related to people chasing dreams and that kind of thing. So I'm hopeful that things will stabilize in our business for sure. But the great resignation is a real thing, and the silver lining from my viewpoint is that it's making better leaders, because we're realizing that we need to connect with people on a different level, and really understand what they want out of their career. They want to be connected to a purpose, and can we offer that, and really meet people where they are. In some cases we can't, but it's forcing, I think, more meaningful relationships in the workforce from what I can see.
You mentioned purpose, and I think with industrial organizations, that's a really interesting development. Like in tech, there's like every tech company has a purpose to save the world, right? And it's a bit like that's why sometimes you go to tech to like disrupt and change and you have a greater purpose. Every tech company has a big purpose and a big why statement. I'm seeing some of that in industrial organizations. And have you found it? First of all, is that a strategy of Apache to retain? Is to make sure everyone is attached to a purpose? Is that a thing? And if so, what are the challenges inherent to that?
So it's not a thing yet. We actually haven't rolled out a purpose or vision statement yet, but I think it will become a thing because your example on tech, like we want to create something that changes the world. What we're doing so that the projects that we build have a direct impact on the community that we're in. You know, if we're working in a refinery, you can easily look at that and say, oh, that's a dirty old refinery. Okay, well, we need that to produce energy to serve the community. And oh, by the way, we're contributing all of these jobs, you know, to this town or that may not have many other options for the folks that live there. So there's different ways for us to connect to it. And I do think it means something to the people that are in this business. I'll give you my own personal why and why this matters to me. I'm from a small town in Louisiana. My whole family worked in this business. My dad was in industrial maintenance, and so we would have people from town come over and, you know, knock on the door and say, hey, Mr. Phil, I need I need a job. Can you help me out? They're just looking for a helper opportunity or something like that. And he would say, yep, come to this address, you know, Monday morning, and we'll see if we can help you out. That makes a difference to somebody. He's giving them the opportunity to provide for their families if they're willing to work and willing to, you know, be able to pass a drug test and adhere to safety protocols and do all the things to build a better life. And having a productive, meaningful way to put food on the table for your family is a big deal. So I remember that from childhood. So that stuck with me, and that's my why. For somebody else in this business, they may enjoy working with their hands and, you know, seeing an actual physical structure that they built. That could be a part of it for them. So again, it's connecting with people and figuring out what's important to them, what they care about and what they feel good about doing and contributing to the world.
Yeah, that really hits home with me because I think that is that's a that's a in some ways a deeper level of purpose than any kind of purpose statement could provide, right? Like that. I also grew up in a small town. One of the things that I think really stuck with me is seeing how poverty can, what I now know, really impact mental health. And it's probably the most deleterious thing for our mental health is when you cannot provide for family, cannot provide for yourself. And having meaningful work in my practice has been like if I had a pill that I could give individuals so they could have meaningful work. Like everyone wants a friend, a home, and a job. Every person in the world, every person that I've ever met through my practice in particular. And so that really resonates with me is that's maybe where we should be orienting our purpose statements, right? To provide for you and your family and to be a part of these really kind of magnificent builds that provide energy for our communities.
Yeah. I was listening to something recently and I wish I had the reference, but you know, it was talking about how so some of the literature and different development books and stuff for so long was about finding your passion and chasing your passion and that, and it we might have missed the mark on that. It could be, you know, what do you feel good about? What allows you some autonomy and what allows you to really be productive and feel like part of a team day to day and earn a living while you're doing it. So maybe your passion is fitness, but you want that to be your passion and something you enjoy. So you don't necessarily have to have that as your job. You can do something, else as your job in corporate America or industrial, whatever it is, and feel like a part of a team and feel productive and earn a good living. That's not necessarily, a passion that you're chasing, but you still feel really, really good about it. And it provides the opportunity for you to chase passions, support your family, etc. So it was just a different kind of shift.
Yeah, and I want to explore that a little bit because the passion thing is very interesting. I think we've missed the mark entirely, and I can't totally figure out what it is. Like, how would you, when you think about something passion and something you're passionate about, how do you think about that? Because sometimes I think we miss it and interpret it as like a thing that is always fun. And that's like not what it should be, I don't think. But how do you think about that? Like, what is a passionate thing that we should be talking about? Because I think we've missed the mark totally on this.
I think you're right. And you hit it on the head. Like, we look at it as something that should be fun or relaxing, or we just feel great about all the time. And that's not always the case. So if I reflect on, what I'm passionate about in my work life is just that. Like, I love being productive. I love, getting to the end of a day or a week and looking back and being like, wow, look what we accomplished. Am I passionate about human resources policies? Not really, but that's part of, what contributes to the business to make it all work. And I think, if we look at anyone who's really, really successful in business, they probably don't love all of the little aspects that make them successful, but they do it anyway. And they're really good at it, and they're disciplined about, the way in which they get things accomplished. And so that drives that sense of accomplishment, which may not be, a super fun passion thing all day, every day. So I think we're missing the mark on, like you said, all 8, 10, 12 hours a day aren't going to be fun and full of like, yay, but we're all working toward a goal and we feel good about it at the end.
I think the problem with the view and the potential view of the passion thing is as you outlined, if it's not always fun, and it won't be. Like, I think if you're successful in something, I heard something about David Goggins mentioning that to get somewhere, the things you don't want to do are going to trump the things that you do want to do. Like, the discomforts are going to outweigh and out frequency the comforts in that situation. And I believe that. And if we're thinking of like, oh, I have to be passionate about my job as a like kind of a statement, and that is perceived to be something that is always fun, you're never going to get to the like the juice in the orange, it's always just going to be a fun thing, and you're going to bail out before you get to that thing that brings you the reward.
I totally agree. And I was not planning to talk about my dad so much, but here he comes again. When I first graduated from grad school and moved me to Houston, he left a card on my on the counter at my apartment, and he said, "In order to be successful, you will have to do a lot of things you don't want to do. Do them well." And it's so true. Like, there's going to be a lot of things that are fun and you enjoy. It's a matter of all of the other pieces that you need to take care of to get the job accomplished, and those need to be done well, at the same time. So
Do you think this is part of the great resignation thing? Like, where people may think, I don't want to do the uncomfortable things anymore because in some ways COVID shows me I don't have to, and I can pursue that thing that is always fun. That's maybe a bit of an obtuse view, but do you think that's playing into it? the passionate discussion about my work and the like discomfort thing about work?
I think so. I think, people for so long had and, I certainly did, my husband did, and just talking to other folks as well, had a view that, in order to be successful, you have to get up and be at the office by 7:30 and, work long hours and be in person. And it's a grind. And so when those things kind of fell away and you saw other opportunities, other ways in which you can work and be productive, that really, opened people's minds. And then that's one component. And then the other is, well, what else can I do kind of, you know, on my own time or own schedule in my own environment. And so it just opened up a whole different way of thinking of, how to contribute and how to earn a living, that we just probably never took the time to think about before because we were so busy in the rat race.
So it kind of shocked us as a society into thinking, oh yeah, there's like other things I can do with my time and some discomforts I don't have to live with and other opportunities to pursue my quote unquote passion.
Yeah, I think so. So we're seeing that. I think the pendulum swung way over the other direction, and it'll probably start to settle here soon, I hope. Um, but I guess time will tell on that.
Settle in terms of people coming back, or it's easier to retain talent.
Yeah, in terms of people coming back, easier to retain, maybe wanting, that stability again, after they've tried something. And yeah, hopefully we get to a better place and we find where the other workers went, right?
Yeah. So you're not seeing necessarily a brain drain toward something that you could put your finger on. Like you're, as a group, as a grouping of industries, you're still trying to figure out where people have gone and the difficulties therein.
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
Yeah. Okay. What's working? Like this is one thing I try to leave our listeners with some practical things, because you are a leader and you've been a leader in a number of important companies. What is working for you right now? You mentioned the education while you work. Is that a strategy that's getting traction? I know you're exploring like mental health supports. Is that a strategy that you're considering? What's working and maybe what isn't working?
Yeah, so what's working definitely is getting out there and, reaching out to not just, we're reaching out to high school kids, we're reaching out to, folks who might be kind of in an underemployed situation and saying, look, we have the opportunity for you to come and learn a trade and you will be, paid while you learn, and you have the opportunity to go to work as soon as you get through our training program. And here are all the things that are, possible for a future in this business. So that definitely has some traction. We're also partnering with our client organizations to help support that messaging, because we're an industrial service provider. We're working for oil companies, chemical companies, and everyone is struggling to find the talent that's needed to execute these huge projects that are very important to our communities and really to our resources. So getting that messaging out, and it is definitely successful. So whereas, pre-pandemic and I guess a few years before that, we would have had people knocking on our door looking for work. Now we're really having to put ourselves out there to say, we want you to come work for us, and here's what we're willing to do to make sure this is a good experience for you and it helps build the foundation for your future. So that's really successful. The other piece, that's a huge mission for myself, for our whole leadership team, is making our company a good place to work, being truly being an employer of choice. So I was actually sharing this with our board last week. It's little things. We want to give people the opportunity to have a better life and, peel away whatever stress that we can as the employer. So we're providing financial wellness education. That's a benefit that we have, and just making sure people know that it's available and they take advantage of it. Certainly the mental health services, taking it a step beyond just an EAP poster and saying, there's a lot going on in the world. Here are the resources that we have. We're going to do a webinar, just getting more communication out to make sure that people truly understand what the service is, that it's available, that it is no cost, those kinds of things for them and their family. Listening to people. So I'm new to Apache, so that's been my mission is really to understand, what are the issues and what can we do to make this a better place for people to work and feel good about coming to every day. And it sounds simple, but that's it. If people want to contribute, they want a good job, they want to feel good about it, and we have the capability to make this a better place to work. So let's do it.
Do you see with these strategies that are working, like there was kind of, so we consider like the pre-pandemic world, and then everything went to hell in the pandemic. And then is there like a post-pandemic strategy that you're considering for retention and attraction and training? Like, is that a separate era that we're in right now than we were in a year ago?
I think definitely. And I'll go back to making this environment work for the team we have now, because we've all been changed by the pandemic in some way. So maybe what we needed before is different. And I'll give you a couple of examples. A hybrid work schedule or work environment was not a thing here previously. And it's Houston, Texas. People are commuting long distances. That adds stress that we don't necessarily need on a day-to-day basis. So we can fix that, and that goes a long way for people deciding to stay or being engaged because they're not stressed about all of the other things that they have to try to fit in their day. So there's definitely a different strategy now versus pre-pandemic, and it's really about leading on an individual basis, and that's a lot harder than managing a time clock style management. It's truly about leadership and engaging with people on a one-to-one basis.
I love the like one-on-one basis thing. Like I think we're in an era of radical personalization of things. I think we will, like throughout maybe the 60s, 70s, I don't know, 80s, we like connection with people. Those business practices seem to be of the most important things. I'm reading Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And like 80 million copies sold or something, and spinning like there's some problems with the book, right? It's like inherently a bit sexist, and there's some like really interesting things, but it's all about connection with people. And so it really struck me that when the book was written, which I think was the 20s or 30s, we'll have to fact check that. The connection with people is of utmost importance. And then now it was all about like scale and connecting with people at distance quickly and efficiently. Like during the pandemic, we were putting in 15-minute time slots in our calendars. Like, could you imagine pre-pandemic that like we have 15-minute meetings? Like maybe that's common in some workplaces. It seems a bit bizarre. I think we're going to come back to realizing that human connection is a really important thing, and that teams are a really important thing. Because one thing we have, I noticed throughout the pandemic is connection with the whole company was maybe more difficult, and connection one-on-one was maybe more difficult, just the way that our digital interfaces worked. But the teams you are reliant so heavily throughout those 2 years on your team, the 5 or 10 people on your team. So I think those elements are going to shape the post-pandemic world. So I like the leadership on a one-on-one kind of basis. And it's so interesting that we have to almost retrain that, like care about people, have empathy toward people, ask them questions about, their interests. Like these are leadership skills now where maybe, I don't know, in the 30s when Dale Carnegie wrote that book, it was just an assumed thing. Like that's what we did. We're humans.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I started that book not too long ago and did not get very far, but I'm inspired now and I'm going to go back so we can talk about it.
Nice.
Um, I just finished Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last,
Yeah.
and he talks a whole lot about, how we cannot substitute human connection. And it's just imperative in building trust. And that's really what it comes down to is having a relationship and knowing your leader and building upon that. Like you're a whole lot less likely to leave when you have that relationship and you feel like someone actually knows you and cares about you and understands, what you're dealing with day to day. That's a different kind of work relationship versus a 15-minute Teams call, right?
Yeah.
That it's really easy to walk away from someone that you see on a 15-minute Teams call once a week versus someone that knows you and helps you face challenges and you form trust with and you've overcome different challenges at work together. That's just a different relationship that I agree with him, and I'm certainly feeling even more enlightened after reading the book that we really need to impress upon our leaders to get to know their team members and spend more time on a one-on-one basis.
What do you think there's a fear there or like a hesitance because it takes more energy? Like I remember a physiatrist that I worked with once. He and another physician were kind of like, bantering and maybe complaining about a high maintenance situation of family. And the one doctor said, I'm so exhausted after like seeing patients for 6 hours. And then this physiatrist, and they deal with physical injury and rehab, he said, well, that's good care. Like that's what that means. And so I've always equated like that emotional output to being good care and good leadership. Do you think that leaders are sometimes afraid of that emotional output or like getting emotionally drained or connecting that will like take a chunk of themselves out of it? Do you ever run into that?
Yes, and I'll frame it as I think part of it is, sometimes you're going to have difficult conversations and we try to avoid those. Like, even if you have a great relationship with your team, at some point there's going to be a challenge or someone's going to need some coaching or something that's going to be uncomfortable. And I think that's definitely draining. It's much easier to, manage over email or be able to turn off a Zoom camera than it is to sit with a person face to face and spend that time. It is draining, but that's part of the job as a leader, right? And that's also something that I think we can do a better job of is setting that expectation. Like, hey, being the leader doesn't just mean a title and a pay change. Like this is the hard part that comes along with it, but it's also the most rewarding, right? When you lead a team and you see people become successful, like that's the good stuff. So it is hard work, but that's the carrot.
I appreciate that we've covered like a ton of different topics, and we've kind of dove into a couple of things, from the Great Resignation to purpose-driven workplaces to leadership. To wrap up, how do you stay well? Like you have a huge job, you have you've been in this industry for a while now, and you have big challenges, and you meet them head on. How do you take care of yourself? How do you stay well? Understanding that HR and people and culture, that's one of the toughest jobs on earth because of the emotional output and also the operational capability that you have. So how do you do it?
So we talked about passion, and I'm genuinely passionate about wellness, wellness and mental wellness. Um, I start every day with a round of breathing exercises and a workout, and I'm very committed to it. I don't, you know, I don't feel bad about spending that time on myself because I know it sets me up for a really, really good day. And I think I'm pretty good about keeping priorities in check. I start with the workout and the breathing exercises. My family comes first, always, and I don't take myself too seriously. We have a whole lot of challenges, but it's important to have fun too. Um, at the end of the day, we work really hard, but I also surround myself with leaders that get it, and care about the same thing. So I'm fortunate to work in an environment where I feel supported, and I can talk about the things that I think matter to me, and I can talk about wellness, and that message is well received. So that goes a long way. I don't feel like I'm skimping out on work if I take a workout in the morning and I'm 30 minutes. I get here at 8:30 instead of 8 a.m. That's okay, because when I come in, I'm ready for the day, kind of thing. So those are the things that I do, and yeah, I really enjoy it.
Exercise, created and surrounded with yourself with a supportive team. Family comes first. And I heard that you breathe in the morning, so I love it. Congratulations on your work so far at Apache, and uh, undergoing a cultural shift in an industry that is really important for our community. So thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for joining us on the show, and we hope to connect soon around these really important topics.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.